Good evening. My name is John Laesch. I'm a Democratic candidate, progressive Democratic candidate, and I'm running for United States Congress in Illinois' 14th Congressional District. I plan to talk a little bit about ideology, about the progressive movement, and where we are going, where we need to take this thing in Washington, D.C. And then I was talking to some folks at the back of the room, and I realized that they have no idea who I am. So I thought I would tell you first a little bit about how I got here to this very moment tonight. Dr. Young shared a little bit of his story. We worked together on a campaign for another PNHP member, Physicians for National Health Care Program, Dr. David Gill, in Illinois' 15th Congressional District. Dr. Gill is doing well, and in 2010 he tells me he may take another crack at it, so we could have another fight. But before I get started, I owe a lot of people a lot of thanks. I want to start with my wife, because she's right here at the front. For those of you who don't know, Jennifer runs the campaign. We got married in June of this year, June 2007. And she's, the other day, we earned the AFL-CIO endorsement, and Mark Gately, the chairman of Kane County, stopped by our campaign office to say congratulations. And he told me that our opponent, Mr. Foster, that Quentin mentioned, had not even turned in his endorsement questionnaire. In fact, when the PDA chair of the 14th District called and asked, "Where's your questionnaire?" If John's got his in, Stein's got his in, he also had to turn that questionnaire in. And I was able to look over at Jennifer and say, she's the most organized person I am, and she keeps me up until 2 and 3 in the morning to fill out those questionnaires and get those things in on time. It's going to happen. And right now we're in a really critical battle to get on the ballot in a special election. We have 1 week to get about 1,500 signatures, and there's hundreds of volunteers out there every day collecting signatures, and she's managed to do that. And I came out of my office the other day, and I was asking, did we talk to this person? The answer was yes, 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 yes. I went back in my office and started asking people for money again. But I also have to thank Bill Bianchi, who has become a friend throughout this campaign, drove down to the 14th District to join our campaign meetings and worked very hard with an even closer friend, Arlene Gloria Hirsch, who we met on the Kucinich campaign. As long as I've known her, she's been a fighter for what's right. She fought off her condo association. And I know nothing about Chicago politics, but it sounded like a tough fight. And we need more fighters in Washington, D.C. Because what Dr. Young was saying is absolutely right. If you talk to a candidate on the campaign trail and they dance around an issue like single-payer health care, they dance around an issue like how do we address the war in Iraq, I promise you that when they get to Washington, D.C., they're going to dance around that issue and they're not going to do it their opinion. But when you have a candidate who's going to be strong on these issues, who's going to stand up and fight on the campaign trail, someone who's willing to take the Republicans on and say, no, it's health care for people, it's not health care for profits, and tell them we're going to take it back from the big insurance company, somebody who's willing to stand up to the Republicans and fight, you know that we're going to send a fighter to Washington, D.C., someone who's going to take to the floor of the House, rally other members in support of this bill, rally other members in support of bringing our troops home from Iraq. I believe that this issue and the economy are going to be the driving issues in this race in Illinois' 14th Congressional District. The Republicans have already started with their fear-based messaging, trying to divide the American people based on immigration. The 14th District is 20 to 25% Hispanic, and they have already started with the fear-based messaging, calling for a national identity card. Well, we stood up to that, and we said, no, that's not right. No human being is illegal. Every human being, we all belong to the human race. We are not going to stand divided, brown and white, black and white. We're going to stand together. United States of America. That the government belongs to all people, we the people. That's our campaign theme. It's a powerful message. It's resonating with people across Illinois' 14th Congressional District. Yesterday, as we were campaigning out I want to just share this one story with you because I want to tell you exactly where I think America is and how Washington's disconnected. I probably don't have to tell you that Washington's disconnected from what's going on out here, but we've been out at train stations, libraries in Illinois' 14th District, asking for signatures, asking people to sign our petitions. And right down the road from the Aurora train station is a homeless shelter. It's called the Hesed House. I've done some volunteer work, and I know that at 7 a.m., after those people have had a warm place to sleep and we feed them breakfast, they kick them out into the street, out into the cold. By 8 a.m., they try and find a warm spot in the train station or the library. So we've got to know quite a few of these people. They're people just like you and I. And while we were campaigning, I was talking to one woman, and she's in her mid-50s. Very bright eyes, warm smile. I guessed her to be a school teacher when she approached me, because she was asking intelligent questions about where I stood on certain issues. And then she started to tell me how she became homeless. She had lost her job at General Mills, that's in St. Charles, Illinois. They had closed up shop and moved to another country. She had lost her health care. She went into a long story about the fight to keep her pension. She was unable to keep her pension, her retirement benefits. Eventually, she even lost her marriage and her husband. And then she started to cry when she started talking about how her own daughter had kicked her out of her home because they were embarrassed because she was homeless and jobless. And I just thought that that's a defining place of where we are in American history, and it's just immoral. And this is just un-American that this should happen in the United States of America. And I don't think that the folks in Washington understand what it's like to be homeless. I don't think that they understand what it's like to lose your job and to lose your family. But when I spoke with Burnett, we were able, I think, to extend a message of hope. When I said that when I get to Washington, D.C., she said she had never voted in her life. I said, well, we're going to get there and we're going to fight for fair wages, living wages, because we need to increase the minimum wage to a living wage. We need to make sure that people like that have access to health care, because I'll tell you what, as soon as you're in that situation, you're out living on the streets in the cold, it's not too long before the cold gets you and you're sick and in need of health care, and the only access that you have is the emergency room and an expense to the rest of everybody, the insured population. So we're already paying for it, we're not getting it. I don't think that the people in Washington, D.C. understand they don't get it. And the reason is because the system is broken. Everybody agrees the system is broken. And as a candidate for Congress, the establishment wants me to spend all of my time on the phone raising money. And that's what this has boiled down to. Are we going to send another fundraiser to Washington, D.C., or are we going to send a leader to Washington, D.C.? And I think that we have an opportunity here to send a leader to Washington, D.C. I can tell you that the Democratic Party is standing strong with us. There is an establishment candidate by the name of Mr. Foster. He's a self-financing millionaire. His message of a national identity card to solve the immigration situation is not resonating with voters. His support of preemptive strike on Iran is not resonating with voters. His dancing around the issues on how to get our troops out of Iraq is not resonating with voters. So we are staying strong by maintaining our grassroots base that we built in 2006. We're going to win this election. This is going to be an exciting moment for progressives. This is going to be a defining moment, I believe, when we can push the pendulum of change back in the right direction, and we can send someone to Washington, D.C. who's going to stand up and fight for we the people, all people, and make sure that that voice, that message is heard on the floor of the House of Representatives in Washington. So I appreciate your support. I had a much different speech plan, so thank you for allowing me to ramble on and talk about the race and talk about who I am. And thank you most, Arlene and Bill, for putting this together, and all the members of the Progressive Democratic Movement. I think that we're just now starting to mobilize. We have a support mechanism where we can support candidates like myself financially by putting troops on the ground to make sure that we can win this special election. And in 2006, I don't know how many people heard of Christine Segelis, but she went through a very similar situation. The difference is we're going to win.